we move forward. All right, I'm going to take the banners down, and now we're going to go. Here we go. Get a stretch in, get a movement in. Our next powerful presenter. I'm seeing, is he smiling? Yeah, oh yeah, I can see the smile. There we go. Our next speaker is a financial coach, successful entrepreneur, and residual income strategist. Lamont is the president and founder, everybody heard that, of New Ventures Innovations, which is a freedom accelerator that helps people experience more time and financial freedom now. When? Now. He holds a BS from Duke University and an MBA from Harvard University. That's just fantastic. You know, brilliance just again. And when you get to know him, the thing is that he'll be able to speak your language, take it to whatever you need to learn, and take you to the next level. He's helped individuals for 18 years really improve their financial outlook in various executive roles with the financial service industry, with global companies such as AXA and Prudential and UBS. By implementing his own strategies, he's been able to obtain financial freedom. Leaving corporate America at the young age, I say young, age of 38, and is now pursuing his passion to help others on their path to time and financial freedom. How many of you in this room would like to find your own path and time to financial freedom? Say, I am. Realizing that more people could create similar success if they had a roadmap. A roadmap means you actually have a path and a direction. Write that down. You have a path and a direction. Make it clear and concise. He gives you the steps he created with his Freedom Accelerator, which is already helping clients release over $1 million in debt while establishing additional revenue streams to help them achieve their financial goals. Does anyone here want to release it? Does anyone here want to create passive or residual income? Say, that's me. Please get on your feet with a huge, thunderous round of applause. Let's give it up for Mr. Lamont.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, so excited to be sharing the stage with such amazing people. Thank you so much, Michael, for that warm introduction. And speaking about one of my favorite topics, financial freedom. It's one that's near and dear to my heart. And given everything that's going on today with the pandemic and such unprecedented uncertainty, people could, I think, enjoy learning how they can create a little bit of more stability, specifically financial stability in their life. But before I get a sense of who all is watching today, I'll let you know up front, I'm very interactive. So if you, I may be asking some questions and I might want you to respond. No is a 0 on the comment box and 1 is a yes. But I'd be remiss if I didn't thank both the entire Power Team International organization, Bill Walsh and Michael, for hosting such an amazing event and bringing us all together in a time when we all could use a little bit more connection, right? So here's the first question for you. How many people out there are already financially free? So remember, 0 is no, I'm not yet, and 1 is a yes, right? So I want to see 0s and or 1s, right? And to put some context around this, when I describe financial freedom, I'm saying that the person has developed enough passive or residual income to cover the cost of their basic needs, right? So that's shelter, food, clothes, right? So with that in mind, who would want to create financial freedom for yourself? That's a 1 if it's a yes and a 0 if no. I'll actually wait because I can see the comments. So no one wants to, oh, I see a couple of 1s. Okay, great. So how many people actually have already developed a passive income stream? So I'll see if you're paying attention. If you have passive income or residual income, give me the actual number. And if you have none, give me a 0. Okay, right. So we have a couple of 0s there, right? And so with that in mind, you might imagine, and as Michael mentioned, I help kind of create a plan. And what many people don't realize is that we're already, most of us, if you've lived or worked in corporate America, we were in a financial freedom plan. We were just in someone else's financial freedom plan, right? So we were working in a system that kind of creates close to 5% of the population to be financially free, while the 95% of everyone else is still wondering what to do. They're financially struggling or still working at the age of 65. So that should let you know that a plan alone is not enough, right? So how many would like to know if there was a magic pill, what's specifically preventing you from achieving financial freedom? Would you like to know that? 1 if yes, 0 if no. So once again, would you like to know what's preventing you from no longer being financially free? 1 if yes, 0 if no. Okay, great. So we have a couple of ones here now. So if you already know that you're looking to find out how and what you need to do to become financially free, as mentioned before, I have a limited number of complimentary consultations by going to ipoweredteam.com/freedom. Right? Only a few of them. So definitely go ahead, even during this presentation, and submit your request now, because they'll be going fast. Before we get into the real meat and the content of what I wanted to share today, I wanted to quickly go over a little bit of my own personal journey, just because I think it'll help add some context. And so from those who know me, and for those who will get to know me, you'll realize that I really like frameworks and putting things into very discrete modular pieces so it's easy to understand. And so when I think of my own personal journey, there are 5 unique phases of my life that are important to know, right? The first one, and please note the language that I use for the eras might seem weird, but as I go a little bit further on, they'll make a whole lot more sense. So the first phase of my life is what I call the imprisonment phase, right? And so that was as I was in impressionable youth, right? Coming up and developing beliefs around myself, the world, that as a fat young kid, weren't the best, right? So I was having issues with that. But luckily, when it comes to the world of finance, I had some good teachings from my grandfather and father, who had this golden rule. And it may not be the golden rule that you're used to, right? So the golden rule that I became quite familiar with was, he who has the gold makes the rules. So what that actually meant was, I just knew money was important. I didn't really know why, how to make it, or anything, but money was important, right? So you can imagine that when my house burned down at 16, my world was shattered. I thought, how could this happen to me? I'm not ready. And my future is dismal or grim at best, right? And luckily, I did know that school could potentially be a way out. So I did great in school. And that brings me to the second phase of my life, which is what I'll call the achievement phase, right? I was a box checker, in that everything that I was working towards, I just thought if I just do more, be better, I would do better and be better, right? So that includes graduating top of my class, going to Duke for undergrad, getting a great job, going to Harvard for business school, getting an even better job. But at the end of the day, I still had all those insecurities. Like, how many of you on the call today could relate to kind of going through life and overcompensating for something in a way that may or may not really be that healthy? And for me, I hit rock bottom when I got into a car accident and almost killed myself and a few of my friends over drinking, right? And really just trying to be numb at the fact that I should have been happy, but I really wasn't, and with all of that, you would think that would be enough to get straight and to really, take control of my life. But at the end of the day, it still didn't. What actually hit me was a family member getting sick and diagnosed with cancer. To hell with cancer. I don't know if anyone else has had that hit your lives, but it really is the devil. But I look back at it and it woke me up, right? it woke me up to realize that life isn't really promised, right? And that was really the turning point in my life where I sought out education to get myself, my brain, my mental, my thoughts in order. And that was when I was able to actually get focused on my goals, right? I got rid of my debt. I also developed a few passive income streams to enable me to no longer feel beholden to a job that I didn't love, right? Because I was exposed to so many people talking about passion, and you hear about like Simon Sinek talking about like find your why. And for me, it was just up until then, it was just make more money. And it wasn't until my family and friends actually had an intervention to say, we only see you during birthdays and funerals, that I said there must be a better way. And so if you ever hear Bill speak, he always says sometimes you have to reset and recharge to jump back in. And the next phase was really around my resetting, my recharging. I left corporate America to really kind of find my purpose, because later on I'll tell you a little bit more about that, is that's really where the magic lies, right? And I did a lot of research, and I just kind of fell into coaching people around financial freedom and helping them get out of debt, because at that particular point in my life, I had went from not having any time to now having a lot more time and being able to do the things that I really love, the ones that I didn't think that I was capable of or that anyone would really care about up until then. And that's kind of where the Freedom Accelerator happened, right? So right now we're in that like last phase, that fifth phase, which if you know me, you'll know if I say if you're breathing breath, your best years are yet to come. So it doesn't really matter where you are today, because you still have tomorrow, and anything that you want can happen if you choose it or will it to be. So you may be asking yourself, why don't most people achieve financial freedom? Why don't? And there's three core things that I have really kind of put together and focused on within the Financial Freedom Accelerator course that talks about that. The first is really around mindset. Now, how many of you would agree that your mindset and your environment is really influential on how you go about thinking about life, right? And I'm going to add, there's going to be another interactive part right here. When most of you were young, put a 1 if you've ever heard this phrase: money is the root of all evil. Has anyone heard that phrase when they were young, when they were growing up, when they didn't really know much, or even when they were an adult? Is that a phrase or a mantra that ultimately has come up before? Once again, put a 1 if you've heard that in your life. I can tell you that I personally have heard that quite a lot, right? And it was interesting that very recently I was introduced to another mantra that some other people may have heard when they were young. Also, put a 1 here if you've heard this: lack of money is the root of all evil. That's lack of money is the root of all evil. Now, imagine my shock and bewilderment that I had never heard that before. But imagine if you're only exposed to 1, the relationship and the thoughts and beliefs that you might have about money might be very different, right? Very different. Because I also, Barbara, yes, I didn't hear that one either. I had to read a book to read that one, right? And so as an adult, one of the things that we have to realize is that we actually have a lot of control over our environment. And that environment can create the right mindset for financial achievement, right? So the next area around why people don't achieve financial freedom, in addition to mindset, is really what I call vision, right? And so when you think about all successful companies, they all have a vision statement. Well, why is that, right? That vision statement allows them to actually act in alignment with their goal. But when you think about us as individuals, we don't walk around with a vision for our financial future. And then so amazed be us when our finances aren't exactly where we wanted them to be, right? I'm sure many people, if you've ever heard of the phrase, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. the same actually happens when it comes to your finances, right? So with people not having a vision for their future, how can they make day-to-day decisions that will enable them to achieve the financial success that they ultimately want to? What beliefs and values do they have, or that they shouldn't have, that might be in alignment to their vision? So there is no vision, so their finances are really kind of left up to happenstance. And who really wants that? No one really wants that. And the third real reason why people don't achieve financial freedom is around financial IQ, right? Do you have the business acumen, or the financial acumen, I should say, to ensure that you're applying your talents and your skills, your know-how, right, to the achievement of your finances, right? And so this is one of those interesting areas where, even in school, they don't necessarily teach you how to ensure that you personally have financial wealth, right? They teach you some core basics. They might teach you accounting. They might teach you even investments. They don't necessarily give you a knowledge base that enables you to balance your own checkbook, so to speak, right? To make great decisions that will enhance your future self versus your current self, which is where a lot of us end up falling prey and falling victim to. So you might be wondering, well, how can Lamont help, right? And so I mentioned before that I'm a big framework type of person. So I really came up with the 3D path to freedom, right? And so you might be wondering what that is, right? And so the first D really is discover your prison. And every person, or many people, I should say, I still am at the point of enlightenment. So I would still say, even myself, I live in a prison by my own design, right? And there are 4 walls within that prison. There's the mental wall, right? What limiting beliefs do you have about yourself? They could include insecurities, questions of worthiness, and what else do you want to know, right? And so I think that you really, in order to achieve freedom, you have to get to a point of mental freedom, which really means that you can set goals and maintain the discipline enough to achieve them on a consistent basis, right? So it's not a one fly by night, or how you say a diet. You can lose 10, you can use 10 pounds on a diet, but then you go back. So you really need to kind of stay consistent with it. And then there's the financial wall, right? So you have that mental wall, you have a financial wall, and this is where most of the meat lies in many cases, right? So it's your actual belief system around money, right? And so unless you were born fairly recently, one of the new infuses around this is really around like behavioral economics, right? And it's that idea that some of the concepts that they've taught us about in school, and rationality of decision making, really isn't all that rational. At the end of the day, like, a lot of our economic decisions are fueled by either fear or desire, one or the other, sometimes both. And if you're not aware of where you fall within that, it can be really tough, right? And so you have the financial wall, the time wall. Time is just, are you actually actively in time for your wall? Like, do you have control over your time? Many of us don't, right? Many of us, through contractual obligations and other things, are just doing our own thing. And then last, you have the physical wall, right? And that's like the idea that you need to pay attention to your health, right? They say one of your best assets, one of your most important assets, is your wealth, right? And so the second path, or the second D to that, is define your path fueled by passion, right? So after you discover your prison, you really need to find a path that moves you, whatever that might be. And if you are anything like me, sometimes passion can be triggering if you haven't found it yet, but it really could be any emotion that gets you to act, right? Any emotion that gets you to act and change your circumstance, right? Because no one can want more for you than you want for yourself. And then the last D is do it now, right? And within that, there's support, enabling yourself to be able to succeed. There's education, right? Really being able to invest Invest in yourself before you invest in the market. That's what I always say. And then accountability, right? This process has really been outlined, and now is the time. If not now, when, and if not you, who? Because no one can create the freedom you deserve but you.
Fantastic. Give yourself a round of applause. Well done. Everybody give Lamont a big round of applause. You know, the one thing I love about that, Lamont, is I'll tell you, I've seen you in action, right, at Rainmaker, and you will put people into action. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But you bring so much to the table and so much on that residual piece that they need to have what you have now. Not, because this is where they'll start delaying. Oh, maybe I'll. So how do you schedule that session with Lamont? It's very simple. You just go to www.ipowerteam.com/freedom. So do that right now. You do not have to wait. I actually got texted by somebody saying, do we do that later in the day? No, do it right now. So Lamont, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. You're welcome. All right, everyone. We are here. We are continuing. We are here for you all day. We have Karen Harrington coming up a little bit later. And it's really how you take this information and move it forward. So start signing up for your coaching sessions. And no, you don't have to wait. Again, if somebody, as they're talking, if they speak to you, you jump right in and get right in. That way they can get them set up with you. They're setting them up today. And they'll have sessions with you later today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, next week. They're here for you because what you're saying is, I want to take action now. And that action piece is really all we're about. And that will help your business really drive that to the next level. So are you ready for more? Are you ready for more to really take you again to whatever that experience is you need? Also, through the day, as you're listening to speakers, just one thing I want to say is, if you've heard me say this part already, you can jump and use your restroom. You can get something to eat. You can get a drink. I've got the iced tea here. No, that's not a shameless plug. It's not a sponsor. Might be, you never know. But sponsors, that's a whole nother thing. You need to talk to Mr. Bill Walsh. But truly, make sure that you're taking care of yourself as you're going through the day. Take the notes. And by the end of the day, how you're going to use that within your own business will be critical. And that will be a big piece. And if you like what you see and hear, which I do, always looking for more and love to talk to you about that. Also looking for speakers, and at the same time, who will also be part of our global mastermind initiative and run local masterminds in your area and be part of a bigger picture. Get your summit in, your business summit, and things that you can do. We can help you with any of that. And I'd be happy to get on the phone with you. Don't want to create confusion by too many banners, but there you go. Text SBA to 26786, SBA to 26786. I'll set up an appointment with you right away. Even if you just have general business questions, I'll walk you through. If you're not sure with all the speakers you heard and you for some reason have not clicked on, I'll help you get to the right ones. They're all great. There's nothing wrong here and you can't make a mistake. Start setting up appointments and then go from there. Oh, here we go. I'm looking at our next speaker. She's smiling. She looks ready. Our next is known as a leader with heart in her community, a sales and marketing genius, a remarkable author and speaker. As an entrepreneur, she's been an entrepreneur since she was 8 years old. Has gone on to own several businesses since then, both in Canada and the USA. She's a Canadian entrepreneur transplanted to the US after a hostile takeover of the grocery chain Holy Home Supermarkets, with 12 locations, which she co-owned with partners in 1980 in Toronto. She was featured on the National Weekly program and interviewed on Canadian talk radio shows like Good Morning Canada. Just many of her successes. She is the super of 2 grown boys in their 20s. She presently owns a boutique real estate brokerage in Florida she started 20 years ago, where she was recently honored for being